Hello, my intuitive art friends. I'm Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy, and we have the amazing Sherry Reichert-Ballou stepping in for Carrie today. And Sherry, one of my most brilliant, amazing friends, is also the author of the book you can see behind her, Say It Now, and founder, creator of the Love List and the Joy Jar and all these amazing things. You've probably seen her stuff featured in some of my videos here. If not, go look her up, simplyscelebrate.net. And the reason why we're talking about love today is not because we have a course to sell you. No, it is because that's what we do. Sherry and I, we just talk about love. Like, I don't know what even spurred it, but for years, we talk every few months, sometimes once a month, about this topic and about how we feel love is so much more than just what two people in a relationship, monogamous adult relationship share. So we're just going to get into it today and talk about unlimited love and how you can access that in your life, how to feel love whenever you want, not depending on who is there, who is not there, if you have a boyfriend, a girlfriend or not, or whatever. Because, a lot of people want more love, and that's what we're going to talk about. I have some props today. I know we have Sherry's book. I have these spread the love cards that are kind of cool. So we'll just have a fun conversation. And hey, Zach, good to see you. And yeah, Sherry, where do you want to start? And do you want people to know certain things about you? Do you want to introduce yourself?
I loved your intro. I think that's the best intro ever, which is just that we like to think about love. This is one of the things I love about you, Rachel, right? It's like we talk about how to expand the container of love. And that's my best introduction you could have ever given me, right? Like that. So, and I feel like we're kind of treasure hunters in that way, right? We're always looking for new places to dig up some new ways of expressing love, of feeling love, giving love. And is that our friend, Zach?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Zach.
Yeah, well, I think I do want to start with a little bit of history, because I know I've seen over the years a lot of people who are like super positive online have to like break it down and be like, look, guys, I don't just wake up like this. I choose it. And I always like that, because that's such the honest answer for most people who are super positive. And I know for you, you went through a really long depression and suicidal thoughts. Like, do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, and thank you, because I agree. I think that's always such a great place to start, especially people here. The name of my company is Simply Celebrate. I talk so much about love, and it's easy for people to think like, oh yeah, that's just who you are. But no, like, and it actually, the thing I think that I appreciate so much is that everything about my choices came from that dark place, right? That it feels to me, and I always say this, that depression and celebration are two sides of the same coin for me. And that I started actually some of the love practices that you and I have talked about before, maybe we'll talk about again today, but some of them really were my medicine. I don't have anything against antidepressants. I don't have anything against anything people do to support themselves. But for me, that was not the path. And I wanted to go the path of meditation and health and wellness and love. And I feel like love and the practices, they gave me the foothold to get out of that dark place. And they still do. I'm not a naturally happy person. And so that's how I get lifted.
Yeah. I was a naturally happy person. I'm one of those people. Growing up, I was like always super expressive. I had lots of friends. I wanted to include everyone. Like I was always on the go, like totally happy baby, and kid, like everything. I just excelled, and I lived in this little like fairy tale world growing up. But then I moved and my parents got divorced. I didn't know how to handle myself during high school and like my empathy and my psychic stuff. And I went through a period of clinical depression and was put on anti-anxiety medication, including some harder stuff like the big drugs, so that I could actually go to school. And it just was not, like you said, it just didn't work for me. I know it works for a lot of people. And so, like, power to you. I'm really happy for you. But for me, again, it didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse.
Sorry.
And yeah, that's okay. We gotta bring some music up into here. It's a little depressing. So anyway, that lasted for a long time, and I lost my self-esteem, my self-confidence, everything. It was terrible, and I wasn't happy. In fact, it was probably 10 years until I was like, oh, wait, this is what happy is.
Wow.
But maybe like you, I didn't really know that at the time. Like, sure, in my high school years, I knew I wasn't happy, but after that, I thought I was fine. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that I was depressed or that I had confidence or self-esteem issues. I thought I was living on top of the world, which is really weird. Did you knew you were depressed the whole time?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did. Nobody else did. So maybe that's the interesting thing. Like if you talk to anybody who knew me, they would say, "Oh yeah, she was so bubbly," but it was a veneer.
It was the opposite for me. Everyone knew I was full of shit when I would say I was great. But I really thought I'm great. Isn't that so weird?
No, we've never talked about that before.
I know. I never realized that was different for people.
No.
So see, this is what you learn by talking about stuff. Like, and the reason we're bringing this up is not because we still feel like that and we're dragging our past forward. It's really just to give you some context that you can find your own fountain of unlimited love, and through many, many, many different ways. And it's still not that I wake up feeling bubbled over with love all the time. It's that I have tools that I can use when I want that feeling. And especially this year, I've really dedicated to having that be my set point. Like I'm reorienting to love as often as I can. And it has really changed a lot of things. So it's a spectrum, and you probably can't get all the way to love if you're not even able to get to like, okay. So like, this is a process. It's a slow one. Sometimes you just got to build and climb the ladder as you can. But we're going to switch into like the love convo now, but we wanted you to know that there's nothing wrong with you if you can't get there right away, and you don't have to have started there in order to get back there. And it's okay if you lose your way, because you can get back.
And I want to add to that also sometimes there is the grace where we do get there like that. And I just want to offer that because to me, some of those moments have been, the next like handhold for me when I didn't know how to get there, or I just couldn't. I didn't think I could feel it. And sometimes they drop in, which is one of the things that happened to me in my most suicidal moments, where I, you probably heard me. There was just a moment of holding my cat and feeling her purr, and something gave me the grace to be 100% present, which, I think is one of the big keys, right? And in that moment, I said to myself, wow, I don't want to kill myself, but it was even more than that. It was like I actually was feeling the love. So we can also get graced.
Yeah, well, that is a really good place to start, because what is the absence of love? It is resistance. I feel like we are love. Like
Mhm.
love is what we are. If you've ever done like a higher self meditation or just connected to like what you believe is source or God, I feel really loved in that moment. When I connect with angels, I feel their unconditional love.
Mm.
And like the only thing cutting us off from feeling like that all the time, in my view, is our attention to things that are not love. It's what we're introducing into the mix that doesn't need to be there.
Oh, I love that. Can you tell? I wanted to be able to put up graphics of fireworks above the head when you said that. That's it. That's it. And how often our minds, for whatever reason, gravitate toward that which is not love, that which is separation, that which is comparison, that which is something's wrong, something's not enough. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? Like, and then when we travel with it, there's no love there.
Yeah. It's outside of love. Like we can stand in our love beam, being present, right? Being present with our own energy, which feels really good. Or we can step out of presence and look at all the things that, and it's funny because it's not even that what we're looking at isn't love. It's how we're perceiving things, because everything is love. Everything is love. We're just not in the alignment to perceive love anymore. We have stepped out of that. We've put on our blinders to love.
Yeah. And like I think that this is back to, I want to go back to what you said earlier about choice. And I use the word practice a lot. Love is a practice. Love is a choice. And I think about like in my darkest moments, which, they don't come in the long periods anymore, but they come in moments still, where I'll dip down into that. But what happens is it's this, this chatter trying to pull me into, that place of, why'd you do, what's wrong with you? You should be, it should look like this, whatever that is. But that what I want to say is the magic of it is when we turn our attention to love, and we kind of, practice turning away from that, it's right there, like you said. Today I was practicing, I've been taking morning and evening walks, and my Zen teacher once gave us this little practice to ask everything we see, to say, I love you, do you love me? So, right? So I was just out walking, asking everything, and it's amazing, right? Suddenly the plants are all like waving, the flowers are nodding their head at me. And, even the trash that's on the sidewalk is like dancing around. It's all, like you said, it's all there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, people who talk about something as spiritual or not spiritual, like it's all the same. It's all the same. We can't be separated like that. So where do we want to go from here? So people are watching. Hello. Introduce yourself if you'd like. What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about? I don't think that anything I'm going to say today is going to be something you haven't heard. So maybe I'll just like tell you what I've written down and then we'll go from there. Okay. So unlimited love, right? We produce it. Even when we are receiving it, even when someone's loving on us, it's not that they're giving us their love. Sure, they are. But in order to feel love, we have to be the producer of love. Because hasn't someone ever loved on you and you pushed it away? You didn't feel it, right? We have to be allowing and the production manager of our own love supply. Obviously, you can do something that you love in order to feel more love. And you can show love, which is what Sherry is all about.
Oh, I love your notes. I love your notes. Right. And I do want to go to the second one, because one of the things that was dropping in, and I want to thank Zach, by the way, because he's posted some fun, he posted it. He was looking for some fireworks for us. But what I was thinking of, if anybody now or in the future hears this, there's a way in which I know this for myself where it can feel like, like, cheesy or schmaltzy or saccharine sometimes. And I just wanted to start with, you have to experience for yourself, right? The way that love wants to be created from you. And it may not look the way that you and I, in fact, you and I probably, it's very different, the way we show love or receive love or feel love. And I guess I just want to say that because I know, like, for some people, they walk outside, and I'm just looking out right now. I can see it's really windy here and the trees are blowing, and someone might see the way the sun is on a leaf. And that's love, right? Right? Like, that's the nature is where so much love happens. Or we've talked about our animals, or obviously people we know. I'm also a huge fan, as you know, of, how can I love strangers? That's a big place for me of really expanding the container. And like you said, doing things we love. I just want people to know that when we're creating more love, this limitless love, that's the first place, is to just open our minds to what it could look like for us. And I just want to put that out there, because I don't want anyone to feel like the way that you and I do it is the way, because it's not.
That's so true. Yeah. Like, and we can even broaden it more and go into like the word enjoyment.
Yes.
To me, enjoyment is showing yourself love. Like, there are a lot of things I do throughout the day to like break up more formal work stuff. I'll walk around the yard. I'll go get some tea. I'll, start a new quilt or something, or I'll design something. And those are things I do just because I enjoy them. They're pleasurable. And that's a way that I introduce more love into my life. Because, and why, right? Like, there's no outcome tied to those things that is like productive in a societal way. And I think so much of us is programmed to think in those terms. Like, I don't know, this past week, I don't really suffer from this. But I think I'm like a naturally productive person. Carrie calls me like a producer. I just churn stuff out.
Yeah.
And that gets really high praise from the world. But for people who aren't naturally like that, I think they struggle with like, well, what if I just want to like really deep dive on this one thing for 3 months? Or what if I just want to do this other thing that doesn't, get approval from society? I think enjoyment and pleasure are totally valid ways to spend your time, and are absolutely connected to how loving you are to yourself.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love that, Zach. Makes me think inspiration has to find us working. I love that Zach's here. When you just mentioned that, I was just thinking of, there's an animated film called Soul. I don't know if you saw it.
Actually, Zach told me to watch that, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but I guess I'm probably going to. So close your ears you can't. You have to listen.
That's okay.
But basically, one of the most beautiful things about that film is there's someone who's sort of always looking for their purpose. And it really comes down to what you and I were talking about earlier, which was this particular person in the film is just a master at being present, to feeling things, to seeing things. And it's not about a productive kind of purpose, but it's a purpose of simply loving life. And I so appreciate that, because not everyone wants to produce tangible things. And even when it comes to expressing love, right? I happen to be someone who I like to create things, especially things that have to do with reasons I love someone, or favorite memories with someone, or photographs or poems, or things that I can, show someone a mirror. But for some people, the way they really give love, and I know a lot of people who are just masters at this, where you're one of them, right? I can see you're doing it right now. You're talking to them and they're just there. You know that they're not thinking about anything that they want to say or what's coming next or what they have to do tomorrow. They're just there. And that's limitless love right there, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I love that you brought up presence in the beginning and again now, because in order for us to be in the same room with love, we have to be present, right? Like, think about when you first fell in love, the first love you ever had. It's because you were actually there with that person,
Yes.
feeling it. Why does it fade over time? Because you get used to each other and you don't need to be present anymore, right? They're already in your space.
Yes. Oh, Rachel, I love this. I was on a long call with a friend of mine. We talk every week as sort of our mastermind, but we were talking about exactly this because both of us, for some reason, the whole call started being places in the last week where we've been really present, when life was sort of talking to us. And that's all love too, really. Like I've had this thing where, on my morning walks, I have these crows that are talking to me every time I'm out, right? And I have to be there. I had to be present at first. The first time they came to notice, like, wow, I was just talking about crows and here they are. But every day now, or, that something will tell us to pick up a book or something will tell us to turn that way, right? Or versus that way. These are all like ways that I feel like we're being loved. We're being given these breadcrumbs of messages that, again, back to it's like the treasure hunt idea. Yeah. But if we're not there, we miss them.
Yeah. That's why I love like driving so much cross country, like going on road trips and stuff, because you have to be present because you're in a new place, you're going somewhere new. I love that, like the changing landscape outside and the directions, and I find so much like presence and love and connection doing something new and traveling. And I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. Well, and Rachel, you just reminded me of something else when you said that, because you had mentioned a few minutes ago about why does the love fade, right? And I'm putting that in quotes because it doesn't really, but it's like we think we know. We think we know the person in front of us, or we think we know, oh yeah, I've looked out there a million times, right? I know what's in my yard, or I know my friend Rachel. But it's that, like you said, like going somewhere new. And if we can go somewhere new with what we know, it can be phenomenal. Like one of the things that this, you've heard me talk about this, is I practice reappreciation, which is, so I like to look around and see things that maybe somebody's given me, or, it's has something to do with a friend, and I'll take a picture of it and send it to them and be like, oh my gosh, remember you gave this to me 20 years ago. And I love, because it's a way of putting a frame around something that maybe sometimes we don't see, but we see anew. And that's a way for me that I find love, it's just one more practice.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And especially since, like, this is my tendency. If I'm not in the flow of my love, if I'm not in alignment, that's when I want to go and shop and like fill my life with new things, right? And of course, a lot of people do that. Especially with online shopping now, it's so much easier to just do that. And then it's when I get something and it doesn't work, or it's not the right color, or it's like, it's okay, whatever. Or like, I probably did it. I have a pile of mannequin heads over there because I want to put my wigs up on the wall, but it's been like 2 months and I haven't done it. But when it's the opposite, when we have love already, when there's no hole to fill, is when we find appreciation with the things we already have. We dust them off. We're like, oh my God, I didn't know I had all of this. Wow, it feels like I just went shopping, And not to say shopping is bad. It's absolutely not. But it's, we can feel, if we're paying attention enough, to what our motivations are, and like, am I in communion with myself before I'm acting, before I'm making decisions, before I'm, doing something? Because if we can connect with love on purpose in the beginning of the day, I always do this before I get out of bed. How do I want to feel today? How do I want to feel today? Because if I just get up and I'm going on my default, and the night before I had like a weird encounter with my neighbor or something, it's just going to continue. And I don't want that to grow. I want my real like life, my immersion in this amazing existence. Like, I want that to grow. So being deliberate, I think people forget that they get to choose how they want to feel.
Yeah. And I so appreciate you. I appreciate that you're bringing that up, because again, it brings it back to, it really does start here. It's so easy. When you were talking about the shopping, I was thinking another thing we do is we shop for relationships, like, we all know this. It's like, oh, that relationship's grown stale, or that's friendships. And it may be that we outgrow people sometimes, but other times it's that same thing that you're saying, that it's like, we're not really seeing fully what's in front of us. And it's because we're not present to ourselves. So I so appreciate that.
I think I brought this quote up last time, but I'm going to say it again because I love it. The real quote is, whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. Oh. And I don't remember who said it, but it's not me. I didn't make this up. But I like to change it to, whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from yourself. Because I think that's more accurate in a way. Like, because yes, you could fill out a card and send it to a friend, but if you're not engaged in the feeling of it, you're not really moving the needle. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And Sherry's all about like gift giving and appreciation, but we should it should be a selfish act too. Like, we should be plugged into that and like feeling the love and feeling the appreciation there. It's not just lip service,
And it's first, there's so many wonderful comments. I'm just so grateful to the people who are commenting, and I'm loving all of it. There's so many things I want to respond to at once, but what you're just saying, it's an interesting thing, because sometimes, and I find this in my work, like sometimes people enter into this valley of more love by loving ourselves more and starting from there. And from there, we can give more. But I also do see, and I actually saw this in myself yesterday, I woke up cranky, and one of the things I do when I'm feeling cranky is I send a card, right? So it's like I have kind of an automatic. So I didn't go like to what you said about trying to first, find joy for this person. But what I did, which I think is a similar thing, is I didn't just have a printed card. I found a photo of the person so that I could print it out and make a card. And then I got out my washi tape, right? And then I got, these other little things on it. And in some ways, even though it was for the other person, it was bringing me the joy. So it can be like, which is what I love so much, because, we always hear no separation, there's no separation. And I think that's one of the places where that, when it comes to giving and receiving, which you and I love to talk about this, I don't see them being different.
Yeah. And you're right. Like, whatever you got to do, whatever you got to do. Sherry and I kind of have a secret project going on, which I'm sure we'll tell you about eventually. We haven't even checked in on it really in a while, but one of the things that I started doing, which is not our secret project, but it's kind of related to it, is that I started making these certain things, big things, like things that take a really, really long time, and then sending them to people. And it wasn't my intention at first. I just kept wanting to make things. And I just found it so wonderful to like think of new things to make based on like certain people or like something I've seen in a picture they posted on Instagram or something. And I'm just kind of in this like inspiration loop, and it's really feeding me. And I just wanted to bring this up because I started making things for me, and then it turned into a way to show love to others, but it's still really about me. Like maybe I'm getting into this because I've often consulted with Sherry about this. Like, am I giving this to them for me or for them? And does it matter? And she was just kind of talking about that, but I don't know. I just sometimes this idea of like selflessness, I don't even know what that is. Like, what even is that?
I know. I love it because my son, my 20-year-old son and I were just having this conversation yesterday because we were talking about gift giving, which we do talk a lot about because I it's one of my favorite topics. But, he brought up the question and he said, is it really possible for people to selflessly give a gift? Is that even which is funny that you're saying it. Those messages. I think, who was it? Somebody said, Liz said, love God gifts. I think you were on it right before I said it. Right? So it's one of those things where like messages drop in more than once even. And they're such like, here, have this gift. So, right. Like, I don't know. And I was just going to say, I don't care, which I don't mean it to sound like that. Like, not that I don't care, but it's actually, if we're just following our energy and our energy, like you said, like you were making things and maybe you thought you were making it for you. And then suddenly you found you were giving it to someone else. It's like when we're really in the flow of love, it doesn't matter. I once got into this big thing, and I may have told you this before, but there's a lot of homeless here. It's one of the hardest things about San Francisco where I live. A lot of homeless. Sad. It's really hard. Back before the pandemic, when I would walk around, I'd constantly get asked for money. And I would get into this thing of like, do I give? How much? Who do I give to? How do I give? Do I do this? Like this? And then at some point, I just started putting $3 $5 bills in my pocket. And the first 3 people that asked me, I would give my $5, bill to each of them. And it eliminated all of that thing about, am I giving for the right reason? Am I giving, am I judging? Am I trying to figure out who's worthy? It's just like, it just dropped it all. And it was just so wonderful.
I love that. I like that a lot. Like I was talking about boundaries with a client this morning, and it's like, if something makes you uncomfortable, there's a way to fix it. There's a way to make it better. There's a way for you to have exactly what you want without feeling that way. And that's what you did. Like you felt like you had no boundaries. You didn't know what they were. You didn't feel good about it, but you wanted to give, and then you figured it out.
Yeah. And it no longer became also like, that judgment of myself. That's what made me think of that is like, am I giving for the right reason? Am I giving selflessly? Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter, does it? I think what matters is that we do bring presence and mindfulness as much as we can all day long to ourselves and our lives and the people around us. And that as much as possible, we try to come from that place.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
I want to talk about something now. I want to talk about my favorite things about love.
Okay. I love you. Okay. What do you want to talk about?
Because I don't know, if we were going to sell you all on aligning to love more often, this is what I would say. I find, so as a very shy, introverted person, love makes me braver, so much braver. And like one of the first times I realized that was back when I was still a teenager. Late teens, maybe 18, 19. I was dating who I married later on. And like, it was a very anticipated thing. Like we knew we were going to get married, like the moment we met, and we waited 3 years to start dating because, other things. And anyway, when it finally happened, I was like, oh my God, this is love and this is amazing. And I had always wanted to talk, speak my poetry, read my poetry in front of a group, because I always used to go to this like poetry circle night at a local coffee shop. And spoiler, I didn't actually end up doing it, but I was going to do it. And people showed up that night because they thought I was going to do it. And I didn't end up doing it, but that's the closest I ever got to feeling brave enough to actually do that. And so I still remember that as a very positive memory of like, wow, I feel like I could do it. That's amazing.
And it was because of love?
Yeah, it was because I was high on love. I was totally high on love.
Yeah, I love that. That's so great. Are we just going to riff on this? Do I get to tell you what I love about love?
Yeah, I'll just end with, even now, like when I'm so into my own idea, when I'm so excited about what I want to do and how I want to do it, in the colors or fabric or people I want, or like whatever, when I'm internally in love with something, that's when I'm most apt to like share it and make connections and do the things that I usually tell myself I don't do,
Ah, that is wonderful. I love that. It's funny. I never think of you as introverted, so it's like that when you said that, I was like, maybe because you do, you're so beautifully expressed and expressive and creatively expressed that, but I'm guessing it comes from that place of love you're talking about.
Yeah, well, because when other people see me, I'm usually only doing things I love. Like I showed up today with love. Just Sherry always likes it when I wear lipstick, so I wore lipstick today. But yeah, nowadays I really only do things I love, and so I probably always look pretty happy and expressed and present. But back in the day, I didn't know all this.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so this might be related, but what was dropping in for me that I love about love, and it obviously goes back to that suicidal depressed period I had, was that I used to say I have bad chemicals. So I really had a strong belief that we have a chemical depression in my family, right? So I had this story going all the time. My head is full of bad chemicals. I'm just full of bad, like there was that. But whenever I was immersed in love, I would feel like even physically different. And I really, I don't know much about science that way, but I suspect that over these 30 years since that period, since I have been focusing on love, that I have actually, I've rewired my system and probably have changed the chemical makeup of my system, from love. We've seen those, like, people talking to water crystals, and the way that they talk to them changes people who talk to their plants, and the plants grow with love. So it makes sense to me. And to me, again, it goes back to when I said love is medicine. I don't even mean that as a metaphor. I think it really, truly is. So I love that about it. It's free,
I know, it's free. It's free. It's so amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like think about that. Again, back to that beautiful comment about, God's love gifts, or, that it's like that we were given as human beings. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. We were given so many things that were free, that are free, that heal us, that lift us up, that connect us to one another. It's like that beautiful, I think it was Emerson's quote, who said, if we should see the stars but once every 1,000 years, how we would marvel. I love that quote, because it's like we were given this free, that is love in action, that the way the universe offers itself, Yeah.
I know Abraham talks about how, like, we just expect the sun to come up every day and we don't worry about like micromanaging it, It's so true. We just exist here, and because everything big that really matters is usually taken care of for us. Like, we don't have to remember to breathe. The sun comes out. There's, maybe some may say diminishing, but there is enough water in your faucet to drink. Like, we don't have to worry about these really big things. And so it gives us space and room to focus on the little things in life that don't work, or the things that we choose globally to focus on that aren't going well. But it's really such a majority of things that are going well. And vibrationally, if you ascribe to that way of life, what you focus on expands. And so if you are dedicated to weeding out problems in your life, you're just going to get more problems. You can't fix all the problems and then expect solutions to come. If you focus on all the things that are going well, then you put yourself in a place of solutions, which is like what we're talking about, like, get into the feeling of love, find that generator of love within you, the receiver of love, the producer of love. And then you're going to have those solutions come to you, like, what will help your depression? Not that we're doctors. What will, For me, this is so tangible. Like, when I talk about, and it's just a story, right? Like me being introverted, but when I'm not in that place of like pure alignment, presence, love, and I have an idea of like, oh, reach out to this person and JV with them or interview them or talk about hiring them or something, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Because I'm too afraid and I'm worried about what they'll think, or I'm worried about what I'll say, or it's not the right time, or I can't afford it, or whatever it is. But if I'm feeling love, even if someone gave me their phone number and said, I can help you with that for free, here's exactly what you need, call me, I will lose that phone number. And I have on multiple occasions, because I wasn't in alignment enough to receive it. I was focused on a problem. I was outside of love, and therefore I'm not a match to solutions. But when I am, which is what I try to do every day, then everything's easy, and I am the ease queen. So for that to work, I need to be in a place of appreciation, presence, and hopefully love too. I feel like love is a little bit above appreciation, and maybe not, but in this magical fake hierarchy, like, I aspire to love every day. I don't always get there, but I do my best. But that makes things work out for me. I will call that person back. I will accept your free help. I will, yes, this is easy. Thank you. Do that, please. Yes.
And what's so wonderful, and I think this has to do with love as well, which is, I was about to say something right before you said what you just said, but it was exactly, I mean, a different take on it, but it was the same thing. And I feel like that's a part of love. And that's exactly what you're kind of meta, because that's what you're talking about. When we're aligned, like, I'm just like right now, I'm so happy. I love you to death. I love being, whenever we have conversations, I feel like I'm just so happy. And so those things happen, right? Like, there's there's an alignment. And my little bit of a twist on it, but I think it's the same thing, because I was thinking a big part of love is that when something drops in, to do it. And, what you were saying is also about sort of the preparation for being in that place. And I'm going to go ahead and say the opposite can be true too, which is that sometimes I just sort of once, about 3 years ago, said to myself, if life tells me to do something, it's my job. And I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to wait till it's the right time or till I feel right. And I think that that's a form of love too, because it is acknowledging that we're supported in ways that we don't even know. And I had like just this is like a simple one, but I think it also speaks to limitless love, which is, I was talking to my friend Rosemary, who's a beautiful poet. You may know Rosemary Watola Tromer. And suddenly, I don't know what happened. She mentioned her mom. And I thought, I should send her mother a thank you note, because she obviously raised this amazing person, right? And it was just kind of an out of the blue idea. And I had so much fun writing to her mother, right? Because it was just a way to expand my love for my friend, and include her mom. And, it was this sort of thing where the idea dropped in, and then when I wanted to do it, I wasn't really feeling it. But as I started to write it, it opened. So it's interesting during our conversation that one of the things that's happening is also this beautiful thing of seeing, sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. We've had that a couple times in our conversation. And I really appreciate that, because what it calls for is that, again, we have to be present and to listen.
Yeah. And I think what you're getting at is like allowing yourself to be calibrated. Like, we don't always start at love. And so you're not necessarily going to feel like, oh yeah, I'm in love and I'm going to do this, like at the beginning of a task or the beginning of a day. So allow yourself to climb the ladder however you need to. And maybe it's starting the card when you don't feel like it. Or for me, like starting the workout when I don't feel like it. Yeah. Oh, keep talking, but I'm gonna pull a card for you.
Okay. Well, I just really want to underscore what you said, because that to me is one of the huge keys. As whether someone's a writer or a painter or whatever, whatever it is that you create, I think that there can be this misconception that I'll do that when I get inspired. Oh
yeah, like what Zach said. Totally.
What did Zach say?
I'll put it up. It's yeah, makes me think of inspiration has to find us working.
Oh, thank you, Zach. That's right. I loved it when he posted that. I completely, yes, that's exactly that. But then it's like my mentor, Brendan Burchard, always says, right, it's momentum that leads to inspiration. It's getting into action that helps us feel the passion. Whereas oftentimes people think like, well, I'm just waiting to feel passionate or inspired. So yeah. Did you pull us a card?
Yes, but also I love that. And I really love Brendan because he talks about the choice he made of plugging into life. And I remember I went to one of his seminars once, and he says that every night he spends at least a few minutes doing something nice for someone else. Mm-hmm. And that really changed me. And it makes total sense knowing you and how you work with him, because that's so aligned with what you do. But anyway, I did pull us a card, and it's a really juicy one.
Okay.
Do you believe in love at first sight? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. And I feel like I have it all the time. And for reasons that I don't know when it happens. Like, I will fall in love with someone, but not because I'm supposed to like marry them, but because we're going to work creatively together, or they're just the sweetest, most kind person in the whole world that I've ever known. Like, I did marry one of them, but and it with things. I mean, I'm, like the leaf person. I'm totally the leaf person.
Or I know I was thinking too, the same thing, like love at first sight. Like I as soon as you said it, for some reason, I thought of walking into someone's like art exhibit, right? And how, you and I could walk into the same exhibit and I would be like, oh, Rachel, did you see this? And you're like, no, I'm looking at this. Like love at first sight, right? They're just, clothes that we see where, for me, and it can sound shallow, but there's things where I'm like, oh, your green coat. That was love at first sight for me when I first saw you in that.
Love at first sight.
Right?
I already bought a furry green coat that year, and then I needed to have another one.
Well, and I think that again, it's like, it's really learning to pay attention when we fall in love at first sight, whatever it is, and not to, I have a pink coat, as you know, a pink furry coat. And I fell in love with it on first sight, and I wouldn't let myself have it. Luckily, I was with a friend, and she was like, you keep going back and looking at that pink coat, like, And I was like, well, I don't really need a pink coat, but I did. I really, I did. So
Yeah. And that's what we started the convo with, like pleasure, enjoyment. This is so important. When you talked about that movie Soul, that's how I feel about purpose. I feel like our purpose is to come here and enjoy ourselves. And that gets like so misconstrued by people who are not in alignment, because when you're not in alignment, joy is really more about distraction, right? And like trying to fix something. But when you're in alignment, when you're present, joy has such a bigger impact, not just for you, but for everyone around you. So, yeah.
Well,
I can't believe it's already almost been an hour. We didn't even. Are you okay to finish it out?
I mean, every time I talk to you, I feel like I could just sit here for 3 days straight. But I just want to piggyback on what you just said, that when we see joy as a distraction, but the other thing that I see that happens is joy, or sometimes I substitute celebration. People feel like it has to be earned. Like it has to be like a reason. Like, well, when I've worked hard enough, or when I've done this. And, as we all know, for many people, so sadly, an entire life will go by where they haven't yet earned, what they were supposed to do to get to be able to have some joy and celebration. And to me, that's like, that's like one of the things I would shout from a rooftop, right? Like celebration, joy, love, they're a birthright, and they're here right now.
Ditto. Yeah, definitely. Like, not only are you going to do your best work if you're happy, just your smile alone, just you, like, I feel the same way about it's a birthright. You exist on this planet to do that. You don't exist. Like, I was thinking the other day, and maybe not like, oh my gosh, my hair.
I love your hair.
Like, I don't know what state I was in when I had this thought, but it's like we come here and we enslave ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Like we come here and we go to school and we go to job, and like, I don't know. I've never been, I'm definitely, I did those things because I did, but I always knew like, this isn't right. This isn't right. When is it that I'm not going to be able to like do this anymore? And I almost had to repeat second grade because I never went, and because I hated it, and I dropped out of high school. I did go to college, but I went to like an online college. I never went away to school. I had lots and lots of jobs, but I always knew I would work for myself eventually. And it's funny to look around at just so many unhappy people doing things that they think they have to do, and they think they don't have a choice. And it's okay, because we're all here for our own journey. And I don't say that with like pity or judgment or anything. Because I really, whatever you're doing is perfect. Like, you're still a divine being, even if you're not happy in this life. The 99.9% of you is still in love and joy, like giving you the freedom to do whatever you want. But we are able to create things. We're able to live in higher dimensional energies and have a life that's more pleasing. And I feel like if I had a mission or a purpose, right, it's to live the life that most lights me up here, and just show people as a byproduct of that you can do it too.
Oh, Rachel, I love that. And I got a little piece of new information about my own, like that period of deep depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts. Was really, when you just said that, I was thinking part of what was going on during that time was I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, and there was sort of a cookie cutter way to be, right? There was a blueprint for a successful person, and it didn't look anything like what I felt in my heart that I wanted for my life. And I think a lot of what was happening was that's partly I thought there was something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why don't I? I even went to a really great college, and I didn't. Everybody else interviewed and got these corporate jobs, and I just was like, I couldn't. I was sick to my stomach. But I think that what you're talking about is that, your message, I feel like, could really save people from decades of going along with that, because particularly if you're in a certain culture, many of us grow up in certain cultures or we're immersed in it now, it takes a lot to really get it, that it's really perfectly, not only just perfectly fine, but wonderful to not follow that, and to follow, like you said, what lights you up.
Yeah.
That was so important.
Excellent.
I always feel, and I think this is one, I know we're almost out of time, but I just want to say this. People who light us up. So it's like, I just know because of who you are that it's like anytime we connect, I expand, right? And I just can't say enough, like, to find those people who do that for us, because there are other people who make us feel contracted and small. And again, there's no judgment about that, but the joy of the gift of someone who we've only been together an hour, I feel like I'm like 7 times as big, right? Like, the room, there's just so much more room, and that's limitless love.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Sherry and I think that's where we met, right? Like, we're in a mastermind together. Carrie runs it and started it, which you guys probably know. And we have our own little card deck that Jean Berry created for us. And here's the 2 cards. I grow through joy, which is a quote of mine. And somebody said you created this. So Jean just like pulled quotes that we've all said. But I think growing through joy and love is totally an option. Just like you said in the beginning, sometimes we just have those moments of where love comes in and they change everything. And I don't ascribe to the view that, you have to struggle in order to expand and evolve. Sure, we can. And that's probably how it happens more often than not, but that's not how it has to happen. So be free, my friends. Find love, find your fountain, turn it back on if you've turned it off, and turn it back on every single day, whenever you remember, or not. It's up to you. But you're the creator and you get to choose. So thank you so much, everybody, for sharing with us. I didn't get the shout out to Creatologia. Thank you for sharing. Oh my God, I love your picture too.
I did too. Look at that happiness.
Hmm?
Look at the happiness. I love that picture.
I know, it's so good. Thank you. And thanks, Liz, and thanks, Zach, and for everyone else who was watching, and Dale. And thank you, Sherry. You guys, go visit her, simplycelebrate.net. She's on Instagram, she's on Twitter, and just doing such amazing things in the world. And she has a lot of live streams, and she also has a YouTube. So find her, put her name in there. You'll see everything. And thank you. And I can't wait till our next conversation.
I know. Mwah. Thank you so much for who you are. And what
you do.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you next week, everybody, with Carrie back. And who knows what we'll talk about then. Okay, bye.